Right, I've got an excellent new piece of equipment to show you today, and it's this KD-6808 mini tumbler. It's made in China by a company called Jewellery Tool and Equipment Supplies. This is the maker's mark on the right hand side here. I have the 220 volt 45 watt version for the UK market, but you can also get it for the American market in 110 volts. And when I first got it through the post, I was totally impressed by the packaging. It comes in a really heavy duty cardboard box, and it's surrounded by polystyrene, which it needs to be because this is a heavy duty tumbler. It has a total weight of 4.4 kg. And the build quality is totally exceptional, and that weight is really good for a tumbler because it doesn't move about in use. Another thing that I was really impressed with when I actually first got it out of the box was that the company have sent spares with it. They've sent a spare O-ring seal for the barrel door plus a spare drive belt, and I think that's really good for a company to include those spares on a unit like this. Also, they send a bag of stainless steel shot. Now if you buy stainless steel shot on its own, it's very expensive to buy, and the amount they've given you here is enough to actually get started. Now, I have had several tumblers over the years. I've had some British make ones, and I've seen homemade ones. I actually reckon this tumbler, looking at the build quality, the design, is the best one I've actually seen so far, particularly for the actual price you can actually get it for. It's got some unique controls on it, and having this clear barrel makes a difference as well. It's nice to be able to see the stuff going around inside and the actual action of the tumbling. And the first tumbler that I actually bought, I bought for stone polishing and rock tumbling for jewellery or whatever. I did that for a while, and then I lost interest in that, and I put my tumblers away for a while. Then I got into metal detecting and would often go to parks and places where I'd dig up loads of modern coins. Those coins would come out of the ground in filthy condition, and obviously you wouldn't be able to take them to the bank or spend them. So what I would do is actually put them in the tumbler with some detergent and some chips or whatever, some ceramic chips, and then I'd actually tumble it for a couple of hours or whatever. The coins would come out perfectly clean, and then I could actually spend them or exchange them in the bank for notes. And then several years later, when I got into home engineering, I realised that these tumblers could actually be used for deburring small components plus work hardening the surface. I'd seen the vibratory tumbling machines in the factory setting where they put loads of ceramic chips in them and lots of small aluminium or steel components, leave it going overnight or whatever, and then the next day the components would come out perfectly deburred all round on every edge, and it would also come out with a nice finish to those components. And I actually realised I could use this tumbler type for the same type of thing. And these types of tumblers actually do take longer than the vibratory finishing tumbling machines, but they have a distinct advantage in that the surface of the workpiece gets work hardened, and you can actually get special chemicals or burnishing fluid. You can actually buy those online to actually do work hardening, and you can actually make up your own solutions very easily as well. Plus you can use them to clean jewellery like silver. Obviously you wouldn't put rings in the tumbler with stones in because it might actually loosen those stones. You can actually put silver rings and say silver brooches or whatever in here, or pendants, and put the stainless steel shot in there with a special solution, and it will actually polish that silver up, and it will come out in a beautiful finish. So the unit comes with about a metre length power cord with a 2-pin plug. They send the usual adapter with it for whatever country you're going to use it in. I don't use that adapter because it hasn't got a fuse. I use one of these shaver type plug socket converters or adapters that has a fuse in it, which is much better. The actual barrel is a good design. It's hexagon shaped, possibly polycarbonate, and the flats obviously aid the tumbling action. It has a unique design door fitting in that it has an eccentric lever here. You lift the lever up here like that, pull the pin through, take the lever off, and then lift off the door, and this has the O-ring seal in a groove there, so it can't actually fall off, and it's very easy to actually use, unlike the other types of tumblers that have like caps that go over the end and sometimes they can leak. This looks really positive with that O-ring, and a bit of silicone grease on that one. The clear silicone grease will obviously aid the sealing of that. And there's really an important point that I must stress at this stage. These two lugs here are screwed into the polycarbonate, and they have a standoff from the polycarbonate to the shoulder. They screw into a thread, and obviously you can actually adjust the tension of the lever by screwing those in and out. It did come with the perfect tension when I actually got it out of the box. And like I say, you can see there on the side there that there's a gap there between the shoulder and the polycarbonate of about 3 or 4 millimeter, and those are both equal, and that would make the actual spindle there parallel with the actual door mechanism. And like I say, it's most important that you don't actually take this spindle out and then think that these lugs here are loose or whatever and screw them right the way in. If you do that, it'll put too much tension on the lever, and if you force that lever down, there's a high possibility that it would actually strip that thread on the polycarbonate. So that's really important to remember that. Leave the gap that's set with it when you get it, and just check that both those gaps are equal, like I say, but don't, whatever you do, screw them further in. They have plenty of thread that comes through the other side, so there's no shortage of thread for grip, and it won't strip that thread if you leave the tension at the right setting or set it at the right setting. It's basically put the door on like that, put the spindle in, and then hold that in the open position, obviously, push the spindle right the way through. It goes through to a stop on this side here, so put that one in, like I say, like that, hold it in position like that, put the lever in the middle there, and then bring it over like that, and it's a very light push to actually seal that door. And like I say, when you buy these types of things, you must carefully look at them, and it didn't actually come with any instructions. Carefully look at the way the door operates, and just note that you don't need a lot of actual tension to actually seal that O-ring. The drive bands or rims are made of a good quality silicone plastic or rubber there, which can be taken off if you ever needed to change them. I don't think you ever will. And the rings there actually drop onto the rollers here, the drive roller at the back here with the belt on. These rollers have good knurled grips on the actual metal surface there for the rings to actually sit on. So there's no chance of the barrel slipping like some do. I've had some in the past where you have plastic rims and then they go on the rollers, which are smooth, and with the weight of the water and the stones or components that you have in the barrel, they can often be difficult to actually get started and will often slip on those rollers, but that's not the case with this design. And on this side here you can see the drive bell on the back roller. There's the motor pulley, and there's plenty of movement or adjustment on that motor to achieve the correct belt tension. And again, you don't need a lot of belt tension to actually get it going. It comes with the perfect tension when you actually get it through the post. And I personally don't think you'll ever need to change the belt, but you obviously slacken those nuts off and pull it this way to loosen that belt to actually change it. And then on the underside of the unit you have a vent here for cooling obviously, and 4 rubber feet. So now I'll show you it going. So I'm going to put some water in the barrel to give it some weight. If you actually use it in the fast speeds without any water weight in there or whatever, the barrel would fly off. I'm not going to put my shot in there either because I want to keep that dry, and obviously when you use a tumbler it's best to dry the stainless steel shot off afterwards. And just check it like this by turning all the way round, and you can see there that it's perfectly sealed on that light tension that I've put on that one. So now it's plugged in and it's all ready to go. This is not the on-off switch here, this is to switch it into a motion which is forward and reverse that way, and then this way it's a constant forward motion. I've turned the timer up so I can't actually turn it down now. Obviously you've got up to 60 minutes, so you can turn that one right up to 60 minutes. And then you've got the 5 different speeds on the dial on this side, and you have pause in between those different speeds. Now I find the speeds anything from 3, say 4, 5 is very fast, and I wouldn't actually use those speeds at all for tumbling. I'd only use maybe 1 and 2 really, maybe 3, but I think 1 and 2 are the best speeds to actually use for this machine. So I'll switch it to number 1. And it's in the forward and reverse motion, so it should switch into reverse in a minute. And then you have number 2 speed. And I actually think that's fast enough for a tumbler. And then number 3 is very fast. So I don't think you'd use anything above 3 really. In fact, I think number 1 is the ideal speed that I'd actually use. And I did take the underside panel off and have a look inside of this one. I like to do that with anything that's easy to take apart. And it does have one of those sewing machine type motors in this one, which is a good reliable motor. And that's in the constant one-way motion now. So I think it's an excellent little machine and well worth the money. Another excellent design feature of this machine is that the barrel cannot wander anyway, because there's a lip on these rollers, so it's held in a fixed position that way. And the seal, if it was to leak, if you didn't have this tension right and it was to leak a little bit, the water would actually come down this side. Because the sealing surface is so far this way, the water would drip out here and go down this surface here and come off this side. There's no chance of the water actually getting in the electronic components inside.